Chicago's commuter rail network operates over 500 route miles and utilizes a fleet of more than 1,000 passenger cars. Nowhere is that density more visible than the A2 Interlocking junction, where during peak hours, a heavy train rips past the switches every 90 seconds. Writing these lines reveals several immediate physical contradictions. In many places, the trains run on the left side of the tracks, following an English-style orientation. Furthermore, those same trains run backward half the time, with the locomotive pushing the consist from the rear. Inside the passenger carriages, the double-decker cars feature a distinctive open gallery running between the floors, and nearly every window is outfitted with a murky green tint. These physical quirks are calculated engineering responses to the logistical and financial challenges of moving millions of people. They represent a century of pragmatic hacks that allowed the system to survive. This network was built on a geographic advantage that made Chicago a rail superpower. Unlike the restricted routes of East Coast cities, Chicago utilized a 360-degree hub and spoke layout. Tracks radiated in all directions, connecting towns spaced roughly 3 to 5 miles apart in a beads-on-a-string pattern. This layout supported an immense freight capacity. The city became the global center for meatpacking and manufacturing, with massive sorting yards processing millions of tons of goods annually. By 1925, Chicago was the undisputed logistics hub of North America. The passenger experience matched this industrial dominance. High-end services like the 20th Century Limited offered a golden standard for travel, connecting the city's financial district to Manhattan in a 20-hour dash of Art Deco splendor. The terminals were equally opulent, featuring soaring vaulted ceilings and gold leaf columns. To keep wealthy travelers' shoes clean, operators at LaSalle Street Station would unroll a crimson rug across the platform, literally inventing the red carpet treatment. However, this massive infrastructure became an economic liability after World War II. As the golden age of rail faded, these palatial footprints became heavy burdens for the independent companies trying to maintain them. The earliest example of using engineering to bypass major capital costs is the left-hand running orientation still found on several major lines today. During a population boom in the late 19th century, railroads were forced to expand their original single-track lines into double-track systems to handle the increased volume of commuters. This expansion created a safety dilemma. With right-hand running, morning commuters would be forced to cross an active line to board. To avoid building expensive pedestrian bridges, the railroad designated the existing left track for inbound flow, keeping passengers safely away from moving trains. This one cost-saving measure permanently locked the region's signaling and switching infrastructure into a uniquely English layout. By the 1950s, the economic pressure on rail lines shifted from expansion to survival. Operators focused on dwell time, the minutes a train sits idle at a terminal, which had become a significant drain on labor and fuel. The standard locomotive design made city arrivals inefficient. Once at a dead-end terminal, the front engine was pinned against the bumper post. To turn around, crews decoupled the engine, drove down a bypass track, and reattached it to the rear. This process took 30 minutes. In 1959, the Chicago and Northwestern introduced push-pull operations. By installing a remote control cab in the last passenger car, an engineer could control the locomotive from the other end of the train. Turnaround times dropped to under 5 minutes. The engineer simply had to walk down the aisle to the other cab to begin the return trip. Compounding those 25 minutes of savings across the entire daily fleet saved millions. It was a clear demonstration that redesigning how the trains operated was cheaper than rebuilding the terminal tracks. The railroads also had to solve a capacity problem. They needed double-decker cars to carry more passengers, but they couldn't afford to double the number of conductors required to check tickets on 2 separate floors. The solution was the gallery car. By physically cutting away the center floor of the second deck, designers created a line of sight between the levels. This allowed a single conductor to walk the main aisle and punch tickets for both floors simultaneously. While efficient, these new stainless steel cars created intense reflective glare and heat. During summer commutes, the metal skin effectively baked the passengers inside. To combat this, the railroads implemented a hasty environmental patch by fitting the entire fleet with dark, green-tinted windows. But as the trains became more efficient, the grand terminals became impossible financial burdens. iconic structures were demolished to sell the air rights for office buildings, forcing commuters into subterranean, maze-like concourses. The physical network survived its financial decline, but only by sacrificing its architectural heritage and passenger comfort. By the late 1970s, the independent rail lines that built Chicago were nearing total liquidation. The hacks had provided relief, but the fragmented system was finally running out of time. To stabilize regional transit, the Illinois General Assembly created the RTA, which eventually established the Metra brand in 1985. This unified the bankrupt scraps of the older carriers under a single public agency. Metra's strategy was standardization. They solidified the stainless steel gallery car as the regional icon and replaced decaying 19th century wooden ties with modern concrete. Yet, despite these modernization efforts, Metra preserved the original 19th century hub-and-spoke concept. The routes today remain identical to those laid out a century ago. Chicago's commuter rail is a massive functional museum. Every train running backward, every missing floor, and every green-tinted window is a permanent record of the logistical battles that saved the railroad capital of North America.